With how fast Fortnite evolves, some players are always looking for new ways to take advantage of any new mechanics that get added to the game. One of those such players is a man who goes by the name Martaz. What's going on, everybody? My name is Dan, and in this video, we're going to be looking at and analyzing some of the tricks and gameplay posted by Martaz on his YouTube channel. And when you're done checking out this video, the best way to put them into practice is with one of our InstaPro coaches. Get some tips and tricks from the best of the best in Fortnite. Martaz is an EU player known for coming up with and using a variety of high IQ plays and clever tricks on his opponents. He got signed to FaZe Clan in April of this year, and while he's unfortunately not going to be able to represent them at the World Cup, he hasn't lost motivation just yet. There will, of course, be more tournaments and events for competitive Fortnite, so there should be plenty of opportunities in the future for a highly skilled player like Martaz to pop off. Analyzing Martaz was requested by you guys in our comment section a while back. We always look for new ideas and requests in those comments, so keep letting us know what you guys want to see next. What makes Martaz such a fantastic player is his knowledge of how to perform so many different tricks in the game. He's the type of player to seek out new and unique strategies when changes occur in a game, and changes happen a lot. Whether they involve clever usage of game mechanics or just plain smart ways to confuse opponents, the tricks and tips he comes up with have not only made him popular in the Fortnite community, but have allowed him to spread his knowledge to others. Here are 4 of the most recent tricks he shared. He came up with this first one, the fake base trick. It's honestly pretty damn clever, as it's not really utilizing game mechanics too much. Instead, it's mostly just preying on plain old human greed. It's a trick you'd really only want to use when there are a lot of players around, like in the end game of Arena. That way, there's more of a chance somebody will fall for the bait. The trick begins by building a 1x1. Then you drop some material and other loot to entice players. Edit the corner of the cone piece you're standing on, as well as a couple of walls, but don't expose yourself. Then open the floor piece above you. Line yourself up so that you're directly underneath the center of the cone piece above you. After that, weaken that edited cone piece you're standing on to less than 75 HP so you can jump, attack it, and close your floor piece nearly simultaneously. If done correctly, you've essentially created a bait 1x1. All you need to do then is wait for an unsuspecting player to arrive so you can edit out and attack. It's a cheeky strategy, one that can work even against some of the best players. You can see Martaz using it in Division 7 arena games in his video. There are definitely some flaws with it, like the setup and waiting that can lead to it potentially being a waste of time, but maybe if your material count and inventory aren't looking so good, the box trick can potentially end up being an easy way to secure in a limb and some loot to bounce back with. Now, here's a much more practical strategy that Martaz uses all the time in his games, titled A Good Way to Edit Peek. Martaz shares with us a way that you can trick your opponent with wall edits. The reason you'd fake a wall edit is mainly to confuse your opponent into thinking that's their opening. He does a great job explaining it, so let's just take a sec to see what it is.
Alright, so I'm going to be showing you guys a really good edit peek, which basically baits your enemy into giving you a free shot. So how this works is, let's say someone is behind this wall right here and he's waiting for you to make an edit. So instead of just making like a 50-50 edit like this, just edit your wall like this, go in the right corner, and as soon as your enemy moves this way, just reset the edit and then you shoot him. So from their POV, they think they have a free right hand side peek. So the whole purpose of this like trick is to like make them move this side, thinking they have a free shot, but then you reset the edit and then like you edit it like this or like this.
As he said, the purpose of this editing trick is to confuse your opponent, as well as move them into a spot where you can more easily shoot them. The best spot for this first edit is the top left of the wall. This provides the most cover and sets them up to move to your left. Once they're on your left, you can close that edit and go for one on your right side. That'll give you the right side peeker's advantage, making it less likely that your opponent will return fire. It's a great trick, but if you play on a controller, you might find it difficult to perform efficiently. With a controller, you don't have access to the scroll wheel keybind that keyboard and mouse players tend to reset their edits with. And since this strat potentially requires multiple edit resets per fight, it might become too difficult to pull off. Still though, even with just one fake edit, you might confuse your opponent enough to give you a surprise advantage for when you go to shoot. This next trick was thought up originally by Kuna, but Martaz added his twist to it, making it a little bit more consistent. It's basically a strat to counter an opponent's turtling. You get an enemy wall to one-shot HP range, then shoot your shotgun at it. Immediately swap your trap and try to place it where you can, preferably on their ceiling. If they don't have a floor piece, you can sometimes place it there, but usually there needs to be some sort of natural structure any player can place a trap on. The lower your ping is when trying this move, the better. With too high of a ping, this move might be impossible to pull off, since the latency to the server will eliminate any chance of getting through turbo build. If you try this trick out, let us know in the comments what ping you're able to pull it off at. Putting a trap inside people's 1x1s is something that you normally can't do. There was a bug a while back where you could place one in from the outside, and this trick was really powerful when you could pull it off, but it eventually got patched. And this move doesn't even seem to be a bug, but more just quick reaction time and some clever use of the new trap placing mechanic. Honestly, if you can pull it off consistently, this trick is pretty OP. Traps just aren't meant to be placed like that. However, you can counter this move pretty easily with this next one. When the drum gun got unvaulted, spam weapons were almost at an all-time high for effectiveness. That gun was just so strong before it nerfs, so Martas decided to put that to good use in a good but simple way, countering wall replacers. To pull it off, you try to wait until your wall's HP is getting low. Then you pull out your SMG and burst through your wall towards your unsuspecting opponent. Even the best players will have trouble predicting or reacting to this move. It's so unexpected to start shooting at your own wall, so it'll really make your opponent panic and not know what to do. Sometimes they'll figure it out and start turbo building. If that happens, you can usually just edit out the side of your structure at that point. With the drum gun being heavily nerfed, this move definitely became less effective. But don't be afraid of trying it. It's still a move that can work well as long as you catch your opponent off guard. You might be better off doing this technique now after the nerfs and the suppressed or tactical AR instead. Both of those weapons have better stats suited for this technique, like higher structure damage and lower boom. So yeah, the next time you want to try turning the fight in your favor, punish your opponent with this move. We only went over a few techniques Martas has shared on his YouTube, but if you ever watched him play, you'd know that he has a lot more in his arsenal. Seriously, it's amazing to see how good he is at confusing and even humiliating his opponents. Now that we've seen his style of play, let's take a look at his recent tournament performance. Unlike a lot of the players we've been analyzing lately, Martas did not qualify for the upcoming World Cup finals. He honestly had some really good results playing in arguably the toughest and most competitive region. The week he got closest to qualifying was week 9, where he only needed to pop off in one more of his games in order to make it to New York. Just a quick side note here, looking at his footage, it seems like his game was getting some crazy stutters while he was playing. A lot of the time, right before he dies or gets close to dying, his computer drops a ton of frames, causing his game to freeze or stutter more than it should. It actually gets him killed in some situations, and with that problem, he still got top 100 for the event. Hopefully, Martas has gotten his PC issues fixed since then. It's a shame to see any talented player getting held back by those kind of technical issues. Maybe it was because his game was freezing a lot, but Martas' gameplay this week seemed to revolve around the baller a ton. Those things are still really good for getting placements in solos. They make rotating a breeze and allow you to ration your material and mobility items. And for solos, it's a perfectly valid strategy to get those much needed points. As long as you load up on material and get some decent loot, carrying a baller into the endgame is one of the best ways to guarantee a high placement for that match. But in Martas' case, most of the time his baller wasn't doing much for him. It would get destroyed pretty easily and unexpectedly at times, leaving him in bad positions. Relying on a baller can make you way too complacent. Players that use ballers sometimes neglect their material count and loot too much. Then when it gets destroyed, they're left with subpar items and a low material count that won't be able to carry them to the victory. The other downside of the baller is how contested they are at the start of the game. In nearly every game, Martas gets contested at his drop spot. Because of this, some of his games end in an early death, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and on some occasions, he would net himself an early game kill instead of dying. With each event only lasting 3 hours, you're allowed a couple of early game deaths in order to reach the limit of 10 games. But with every early game contestation, you're taking a big gamble on getting the right loot to win the fight. Too many deaths this way, and your event result will be ruined. While Martas sits in a baller, he's not going for kills. And with his playstyle, we think Martas should definitely be looking for fights to third party. A lot of the top players that qualified for World Cup looked for and got kills when they needed them the most. That way, you can get more material and loot, then bounce back from what is otherwise a subpar game. As we said, he only needed about one more pop-off game or so to qualify here. We would have loved to see his 1v1 and box fighting abilities being used more here in order to get himself kitted so he could dominate the endgame. Martaz has shown since the beginning of Fortnite to be a very innovative and knowledgeable player. And while we don't know just yet what big tournaments are going to happen after the World Cup ends, we do know they're coming. How do you guys think Martaz will perform in those upcoming tournaments? Will he succeed and qualify for the next big event, or hit another roadblock and have to try again in the future? Let us know in the comments. If you guys like this video, make sure that you share it, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me at @DanielAmmerman in the link right here. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your grind.